Why not? Why should my poems not imitate my life? This line, which is from The Summer Night, from the collection The Seven Ages, published in 2001, says it all about Louise Elizabeth Gluck, the 2020 Nobel laureate in literature. Of course, this year's Nobel Prize did come as a surprise to everyone, probably because many of us did not even think that Louise would be in the queue. Though quite unacquainted to those outside America, Gluck is a contemporary, a very important contemporary post-confessional poet of America. The Swedish Academy's permanent secretary Mats Mam announced the Nobel Prize for Literature in Stockholm on Thursday. The Academy said that it was for her unmistakable poetic voice that with austere beauty makes individual existence universal that she was awarded with this prestigious award. Louise Gluck becomes the 16th woman Nobel Prize winner since the inception of Nobel in 1901. Olga was the last and the 15th one to win this covetous prize in 2018, and Bob Dylan was the last American to win it in 2016. Of course, Louise is important for me in some ways. Amongst the 117 Nobel laureates till date, only 16 women writers, including Louise, have won this. So this, for me, is a kind of a step ahead that women take. Second, as the Swedish Academy was really stained with lots and lots of sexual allegations, accusations on corruption, tampering the secrecy of the Nobel Committee, and lots of controversies regarding the awardees like Bob Dylan and Peter Hanke on whether they really deserved it or not. With Bob Dylan being declared as the Nobel laureate in 2016, people had begun to quote his own song as the times that are ending because he was awarded for his words on stage, not words on the paper. With Peter Hanke, who is himself a very controversial figure as being the denier of the Bosnian genocide for denying the atrocities carried out by the Serbian forces against the Bosnian population during the 1990 Yugoslavian war. Which was so very crystal clear to the whole world. Questions on whether the person's political views should be taken into account were really shot from different parts of the world. Coming back to Louise, as she herself says in the introduction to the Best American Poetry published in the year 1993, that poetry is autobiographical. Gluck fashions her poetry with autobiographical experience and is very much confessional, though the Swedish Academy has mentioned that we should not take Louise's poems as purely confessional alone. There is too much of Louise in the poems, or we can say that she is trying to create a sense of order through writing poetry from the redundant facts of her life. Maybe she is trying to create a sense of order. Or there is too much of myth making in her poems, like maybe as a girl who has learned Greek myths from a very small age, from 3 to 4 to 5, she has learned Greek myths, and maybe myth making is a sort of way that she is through which she is trying to create a sense of order, sense of self from the chaotic, from the isolated, from the disconnected part of her life, as we see in most of her poems like Ararat or the Wild Iris or Meadowlands. So childhood, teenage years, the battle with anorexia nervosa, the 7 years of psychoanalysis where she tries to come to terms with her own illness, death, trauma, etc., are the frequent themes that she deals with in her poetry. She also talks about sexuality, failed relationships, family dynamics, motherhood, and there is too much of Ulysses, Penelope, Telemachus, Circe, Persephone, Jesus, and everyone. Now some facts. Right now she is the professor of English at Yale University, and she has published 12 volumes of poetry and has received almost every award possible, including the Pulitzer Prize in 1993 for her collection The Wild Iris, and the National Book Award in 2014 for Faithful and Virtuous Night. Firstborn is a first collection of poetry which was published in the year 1968. This particular collection is set in a very gloomy and deceased landscape. In this particular collection, there is a poem titled The Wound, which talks about abortion. The very next volume, The House on Marshland, which was published in the year 1975, that was actually a breakthrough collection for her because that exhibited a great mastery of voice, and the critics are of the opinion that there emerged a new species of poet. This collection again is about family, about maternity, maybe because it was written right after, it was published right after her son was born. Then there is the third collection, A Descending Figure, which was published in the year 1980, where you have a collection titled The Drowned Children. This particular collection did become somewhat controversial in the sense that critics actually branded her as a child hater. Actually, this particular poem was a kind of a fear that a mother has of losing a child. Where there is a pond being taken as the mother figure. The Triumph of Achilles, published in 1985, Ararat in 1990, The Wild Iris, which did win the Pulitzer Prize, it was published in 1992, Meadowlands in 1996, Seven Ages, Everno, A Village Life, and on it goes. In between, she had published a collection of essays titled Proofs and Theories, Essays on Poetry, in 1994. There was a very beautiful poem which became quite controversial, that was Mock Orange, which was a kind of a feminist anthem where she is trying to attack the patriarchal order through poetry. Is the Nobel Committee coming back to its sainthood by choosing Louise Gluck, who is not a controversial figure at all? You can of course call Louise as a feminist, though she says that she is not a feminist. You can call her as a Jewish poet, a postmodern poet, a religious poet, emotionalist poet, eco-feminist poet, but then she resides in America. Her poems reside in America. It never comes out of America. Even in America, she was a late known figure. Is she that universal? Is she that meditative or innovative to be crowned the world's most prestigious award? And with all the controversies around, will it be quite difficult for the Nobel Committee and the Swedish Academy to come back to the past glory? Let's all hinge our thoughts onto it. Thank you all.